Hi quilters, I'm Shelly Robson from the Quilted Forest, and I would like to invite you to join us to do a Block of the Month in 2022. The videos for the Block of the Month will come out either the first or second time we post each month. The yardage you'll need for that month's block will be listed on the pattern, and each month will be a little bit different because the blocks are going to be different shapes and sizes. In month 8, we will start working on the borders so that you don't have as much to do at the very end. It will take us a couple months to work on those. I will be showing you the 3 colorways that I'm working on. This is a quilt that I've been wanting to make for a while, and I didn't work on it because I didn't know which colorway I wanted to do. So finally I just decided to start working on it and make all the colorways that I was considering. So I have a batik version that's kind of brighter colors. I have a red, white, and blue version. And I'm doing one version that will have a black background with bright prints. I'm including a sketch at the end of the video so you can kind of see where the quilt is headed. It's not a complete sketch, it doesn't have it all filled in, but at least you'll get an idea of where the quilt is heading. Keep checking back each month for our Block of the Month videos. Hit like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on everything that's happening with the Quilted Forest. Let's get started. Here is the pattern for month 1 of our Block of the Month 2022. You can either push pause and write down information that you need from this pattern, or you can do screenshots and print it at home, or you can look for our Facebook group called the Quilted Forest Friends and request to join. Then you will have access to downloadable PDFs of this pattern and the future Block of the Month patterns. From the background fabric, you need to cut 2 strips that are 2.5 inches by the width of fabric. From both of those strips, you will need to subcut the strips at 27 inches so that you end up with 2 pieces that are 2.5 inches by 13 inches and 2.5 inches by 27 inches. I just cut 13 inches off of one end, and then I had my strips that I needed. From the dark fabric, you will cut 2 strips that are 2.5 inches by the width of fabric. These will also be subcut at 27 inches from both strips. You will end up with 2 pieces that are 27 inches long and 2 pieces that are about 13 inches long, and only one of the 13-inch pieces will be used for this project. From the medium fabric, you need to cut 1 strip that is 4.5 inches by the width of fabric. You will subcut that to 27 inches, so I just cut 13 inches off one end, and you will use the 27-inch piece for this block, but you will have 13 inches to use on a future block. From a medium or dark fabric, you will need to cut 1 square that is 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches. So now you have all your pieces cut to make the block. Here are the fabrics I'm using for my other colorway. This one is going to have the black background and the bright prints. These are the fabrics I'm going to be using for my red, white, and blue version. It's time to sew. Make sure you're using 1/4 inch seam allowances. For step 1, you are going to piece a dark 2.5 inch by 27 inch onto both sides of a 2.5 inch by 27 inch background strip. I'm usually working on more than one step at a time so that I can sew for as long as possible before I have to get up and go to my ironing board. So I am going to start on step 2 at the same time here. For step 2, you are going to piece a background 2.5 inch by 13 inch strip onto both sides of the 2.5 inch by 13 inch dark strip. And there's still more to sew before we head over to the ironing board. This time we're going to start on step 3, where we piece a background 2.5 inch strip by 27 inch strip onto the 4.5 inch by 27 inch medium or dark strip. Now it's time to add the other side for the pieces for steps 1 and 2. As you're watching this video, you might be thinking that I'm taking very large stitches, but what really is happening is I have sped up the video on the stitching so that the needle appears to go slow, but it's actually going very, very fast. You don't actually see every stitch that it's making. I've also sewn up the pieces for my other 2 colorways. I'm not going to bore you with the video for that, but I'm getting it done. It's time to press. We are going to be pressing towards the darker fabrics. I like to use a little bit of the Mary Ellen's Best Press spray, especially if the fabric has creases in it or wrinkles. It really helps everything lay nice and flat. Just like I speed up the sewing when I'm putting that part of it in the video, I also speed up the pressing. I only wish I could press this fast in real life. That would be awesome. Three times the block equals 3 times the pressing, but now I've got it all done. Now that our pieces are pressed, it's time to do more cutting. For the unit made for step 1, you will need to subcut sections that are 2.5 inches wide. You will need 8 units that are 2.5 inches wide. You will be able to get more than 8 units out of this piece, and so I usually just cut it up so that I can use it in a future project. I like to use a big ruler when I'm cutting these pieces to help make my cutting a little bit more efficient. So instead of cutting a 2.5 inch section, moving the ruler, cutting a 2.5 inch section, and moving the ruler, I will start at 12.5 inches, and then I will cut down to 10, 7.5, 5, and 2.5. I'm moving the fabric less and making more efficient use out of the ruler. For the strip set made in step 2, you will need to cut 4 units that are 2.5 inches wide. From the strip set that you made for step 3, you will need to cut sections that are 6.5 inches wide. And I've also done the cutting for my red, white, and blue version and my black background version with the bright prints. Now it's time to put all these pieces together. We will be making 9 patch units out of the sections that you cut for steps 1 and 2. If you have pressed towards the dark, those seams should nest together nicely and make sewing a breeze. We are making 4 of these 9 patch units. They will measure 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches. I've also got my blocks sewn up for my red, white, and blue version and my black background with brights version. Now it's time to press, and I'm going to press away from the center of the block. Now that all the block parts are pressed, I can lay the block out and see how they're going to look. We are going to make 1 of the center row and 2 of the outer row. We are only 8 seams away from seeing our finished block. If you press correctly towards the dark, a lot of the seams when you sew them together from piece to piece will line up and nest together, so it makes sewing really easy. If you prefer, you can pin while you're sewing these units together. Now it's time to go back to the ironing board and get these pressed. For the center row, you are going to press away from the center block. For the 2 outer rows, you are going to press toward the center section. All right, only 2 more seams and our block is done. Pressed correctly, these seams should lock together and nest very nicely. If you prefer, you could pin while you're putting the block pieces together. One last time to the ironing board. To get this block pressed, I am going to press towards the center of my block. If you want to help it lay a little bit flatter, just use a little bit of Mary Ellen's Best Press spray. And it's done. Our block now should measure 18.5 inches by 18.5 inches. I've also finished my block with the black background and the bright colors and my red, white, and blue version. I like to store my leftover fabrics in plastic bags so that I can see through them and hopefully use the leftover fabrics in a future block. I will also store them all together so they're easier to find when I'm making my next month's block. As promised, here is my sketch of where this quilt is going. It's not complete and I don't have all of it filled in, but at least you have an idea of kind of where I'm headed with this. Here's another alternate colorway of the original block. I had some leftover fabric and I wanted to play around with it a little bit, so I did something different in the corners just to see how it looked. I still like my original block and I'm going to use that one. Thanks for watching and come back next month for block number 2. We will see you then. Thank you.